Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all well and taking advantage of the great resources that David and TurnFit have provided to you through his extensive network. I want to do my little bit and support you as best I possibly can. And I'm open to you sending me any messages as to the type of content that you would like covered. I have titled today's talk, or presentation, if you like, is "We Choose to Go to the Moon." And I take that from the inspiring speech of John F. Kennedy, where he said, "We choose to go to the moon. We choose to do it in this decade, not because it's easy, but because it's hard." I just find it really powerful. But landing on the moon, to me, was an indication of the progress of what was possible. But the mission that Kennedy set in motion wasn't to place somebody on the moon, but it was to get people on the moon and back again in safely. The mission would have failed had Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, along with Mike Young, be stuck on the moon or in the orbit of the moon. So the real outcome was to get there and bring these guys back. The power of that outcome and knowing what you're trying to do was more typified and exemplified in the mission Apollo 13. We've probably all seen the movie, we've all heard the story that failure isn't an option. And they did everything they could to bring these guys back safely, which they duly did. But how does this reflect to you now in either your home, your personal lives, and in your business? Well, what's really important is remembering that there is an outcome, there's some purpose, there's intention for everything that you're wishing to do. That may not be self-evident when you start things. Let's take when you join the gym, one of your goals might be to become fit. But what does fit really mean? How do you know when you've achieved your goal? So getting some clarity and distinction on what the goal is really helpful, because that can inform you in terms of your actions and your decisions that you take that lead to those actions that support your outcome. Are you going to be dissuaded, put off, because an obstacle is placed in front of you that is to give you, that tries your well-being, if you like, or your sense of conviction to the outcome? Right now, the whole world, as I don't need to tell you, is terrified and responding in different ways to this COVID-19 pandemic. But this is a hiccup. Unfortunately, it's going to be painful, much more painful for some people than others. But it is only a hiccup. It doesn't change the value of your outcome. It may mean that you have to change your strategy. And in NLP, that's called behavioral flexibility. It's being able to respond to the given situation and adjust accordingly so that you keep moving towards your goal, even if there is a slight detour. If the planes were flying regularly, it's a common example, is that a plane may leave Vancouver Airport aiming for Montreal, as an illustration. It doesn't fly straight there. It has a route, it has a destination, it has an outcome, but it adjusts to the weather conditions, the wind speed, other planes, and that's supported by a whole network. And all the information that's given back to it is just feedback. So in all times, I'm saying to you, just be alert to what the feedback is and recognize that feedback is to support you and get you back, adjust your process to the outcome you're looking for. I'm going to leave you with one last thought as well, which is the power of having a clear outcome, a clear destination, something you're looking forward to. And it's the story of a guy called Viktor Frankl. Some of you may have read his book, Man's Search for Meaning. It's an incredible story. But Viktor Frankl was a doctor, a Jewish doctor who was imprisoned in the concentration camps. But because of his medical background, he was asked to support, and actually gave support to the camp and some of its patients as well. One of the things that Victor noticed along the way is that people who survived had a real reason, had a purpose, had a reason why at the end of it that was bigger and greater than themselves. He wasn't limited to, just because I'm going to put two fingers up, if you like, to the, sorry, it's a very English expression, put two fingers up to the camp commandant and to the Nazis at the time, but he was committed to the people who were surviving had greater purpose, whether it was to support to see their family at the end, to make something of their lives. Yet those that gave up on their why never made it out their camp. Granted, some of that wasn't a choice because of the way the camp worked, but those who were still around and seemed to survive with that greater purpose. I did say I'll leave you with that would be my last thought, but I'm also struck with one other thing, which is a bit more on a slightly esoteric touch, but I think it's really important for you to appreciate and to understand. And it's a concept called, mine's gone blank for a moment, but it's an idea that's been brought up by a man called Buckminster Fuller. Procession, that's the term. And he talks about it in terms of the bee. And we all know what the bee is, and the bee leaves its hive and it flies out from the hive and it goes and pollinates a plant by collecting its nectar, and then it flies back in service of the rest of the hive. When the bee does that and it pollinates, it's doing what he thinks it should be doing, i.e. in service of the queen and the rest of the hive, and it does a really good job. But as I said, it also pollinates the plants, and without its pollination of those plants, we won't have oxygen on this earth. This is so important to the extent that the United Nations actually signified at the tail end of 2019 that the bee is the most important creature on this planet. Hurts a few humans' egos, but that's a fact of life. A bee is deemed to be the most important creature on this earth. The relevance of the story is that the bee doesn't know what its purpose is, but it's fulfilling its purpose just by doing what it must do. And the same will apply for you. However, we also have the benefit of consciousness, and that consciousness and ability to choose our own outcome and our destination and the meaning that we attach to things. But rest assured, as long as you're clear on what you're doing, the decisions you've taken, and keep your eye on the goal that you've set, that you will be delivering on your purpose, your mission, and making a difference, not just to yourself, but to your family, friends, and community. I hope this was of value to you, and look forward to hearing back and any comments you may have. All the best.